Bom dia, bom dia! Chegando ao nosso sábado, hoje com algumas conversas muito importantes, a começar dessa conexão América Latina-África. A gente está recebendo Glenn Gillis, que é o presidente da Games for Change África, que agora em dezembro faz o seu festival. The December Festival is around the corner for Games for Change Africa. Thank you so much, Glenn, for being with us. I think that in Latin America, there's a lot of interest with respect to Africa, of course. We are both both living in the South, so there's so much talk about South-South relations, and I'm so excited that we are getting closer, and this is a very important session for us. So, without much ado, I will leave the floor to you, and I'll bring your presentation on screen. I mean, your screen. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Thank you, Glenn. The floor is yours. We'll be in the backstage.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks, Gilson, for the opportunity. And yes, so amazing to be talking to everybody online and to hear more about how Games for Change in LATAM has been going. So yeah, I'm Glenn Gillis. My day job is CEO of Monster. We're an impact gaming company based in Cape Town, South Africa. We've been doing this for 12 years. We've survived making 100 odd impact games. And then about 4 years or so ago, we earned the trust of Games for Change in New York, as you know, the headquarters of the global body, and it was amazing to meet people from the rest of the chapters around the world. But Africa had not been represented on the global stage yet, and so we put our hands up to take on the chair role in that. And yeah, we've had 2 festivals, and as Gilson was saying, we have another one coming up on the 1st of December in Cape Town. So more about that in a moment. I'm full screen. I'm at home. It's Saturday. So unfortunately, I only have one monitor. But if the sound is not great or the slides are not coming, just shout, interrupt, sing. And of course, if you have any comments or questions along the way, be delighted to take those as well. So what we thought that we would do today is really just give you an overview of Games for Change Africa, some of the ways that we are thinking about the world, thinking about how to develop the gaming industry generally, the impact gaming sector more specifically. And so just to share some thoughts with you, and maybe these will resonate with some of the challenges that you are having as well as some of the amazing opportunities that I think we all see in the sector. Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're the youngest chapter, and very happy to be representing the important work we do. I think it's really critical that we promote the credibility of the industry. I think many people know that out there, most people's perceptions that games are for kids, or teenagers sitting in their underpants on their mother's couch or something like that. Sorry about that image. But of course, we know that to be very different. I saw some stats recently: 2.6 billion people globally are gaming on a regular basis, and including 47% of baby boomers. So, as we all know, everybody games, and there's no challenge in the world that couldn't be made better through applying a game as part of the solution, whether that's in learning, social change, or even in marketing, as brands are starting to think about how to show up authentically in gaming. So our perspective is really a global one, but very much rooted in the African context. 54 countries, depending on how you count them. It's not a country, it's a continent, and I know you probably have a similar issue with different amazing cultures and countries that make up South America and beyond. But we are definitely the youngest continent. This is just a demographic reality. And we think about this often as the digital divide, which I know is so important that we find solutions for that everywhere, including in Latin America. And we think about it as saying, if we can cross that digital divide, we will get to a digital dividend, if you like. And I think we have the biggest dividend to deliver to the world. In the pure entertainment space, we are undoubtedly going to be a major force for all markets. But it's not just about gaming for pure entertainment, as we know. What we're very interested in is how we can start to inject an impact gaming agenda into so much of what we're doing. So this kind of growth rate, and the numbers have obviously gone up since the slide was made, but this is where a lot of global growth is coming from. Whether it's technology or whatever it might be, it's actually a lot is coming from the global south, as Gilson was saying, specifically in the Africa context. And whether it's the next billion customers, whether it's the next billion game players, the next billion smartphone owners, a big proportion of those will no doubt come from our continent. So that's just the numbers reality. And of course, the question that occupies us is, so what game are they going to play? What are they going to be occupying themselves? Are they going to be watching YouTube ads or TikTok videos? And of course, many of them will. But we know that there's a real opportunity that comes from this ability to start to inject an impact gaming angle. And that's the part that we feel very strongly about. Because ultimately, there are four big questions, if you like, in terms of how we make this African, or in your case, how we make this authentically for Latin America. And the academics will forgive me for simplifying the value chain, but if you think about the value chain for the creative industry generally, and specifically for games, this is it, isn't it? It's the big ideas. How many of those are going to come from our region, your region? How much of that is going to be made in our respective countries? We are also a massive market, so selling into Africa, as you've already seen, is a massive opportunity, as is your market. And then ultimately, how much is really going to be owned by us, by you, and by your studios? And the world is not a simple place, because actually what we want is a combination of all of these things. So if you think about that Venn diagram and how we get all of that to interact, if we think about the African gaming solution, it actually sits right in the middle. There will be some players who will be involved in the creation side, the concept development phase, pre-production, and so on. There were others that will be pure services businesses, servicing perhaps clients in North America or wherever they might be. And of course, sales and distribution is not insignificant. I think we share many of the same challenges. Oh yeah, just go to the App Store with your smartphone, on very cheap Wi-Fi, swipe your credit card and buy a game, or somehow contribute financially. Well, there's several problems in that statement, aren't there? Just getting access to the internet is not as available there as it is here, etc. So what I'm going to do in the next 15 odd minutes that we've got is just actually run through each of these things, each of these four topics, and just give you a sense of some of the ways that we're thinking about it, and let's see where we get to from there. So while you read this, I'm just going to have a quick sip of water. Just somebody give me a shout out, all going so far, so good. On the slides projecting, and there's everything coming across backstage. Are we good? We're all good, huh? Okay, great. So, yeah, so as you can see, if you follow pure economic development principles, what we see a lot of is supply side intervention, hackathons, bringing young people into the industry, all of those kinds of things are very important. Incubators, supply side initiatives. Governments love them, academics love them, and aid agencies love them. But actually, it's not really what the industry needs. I'm not saying those things are bad. I'm just saying that we can't only do those things and hope that growth comes. Maybe in Europe and more developed places, America, wherever it might be, just being a catalyst on the supply side is sufficient. But actually, I believe that in the context of your market and ours for sure, we need to think about how we develop a sustainable and scalable demand. There's a lot of fragmentation, a lot of small studios and individuals contributing, but we don't really get the full benefit of that creative industry flywheel applying generally, to be honest, but specifically in the area of impact games. And this is a challenge that games to change everywhere in the world is dealing with and thinking about. It's not like this problem is really being solved anywhere, and we can talk about why those reasons exist. Partly, I guess, also because a lot of the funding that has traditionally been in this space, that grant funding and that sort of non-profit sector, is not in and of itself sustainable. Even big agencies like the UN are struggling to make sure that if they come up with a game that treats a particular, challenge, one of the deals with one of the SDGs, that's fine. They can fund it perhaps for a year or two, but then ultimately, how does it become self-sustainable? And until we do that, we don't really get the full benefits of this flywheel applied. And so, as I mentioned, often we see people starting purely at the concept stage, and of course that's where we should all start in these things. But each of these different areas, if you like, needs to kind of be building a bit of momentum, and then we really will get to this potential that we know exists everywhere. So just to think for a second about, inspired by Africa, your many countries and cultures are also so incredible with the stories they have, the art, the music, all of those incredible creative things, which are in many ways are trapped in our country. We know that from the Korean success story, for example, that things that are even sort of really specific to a particular culture actually do resonate around the world because of that authenticity, the fact that we know the creative industry really appeals way beyond a particular culture, but that a beautiful piece of art or music really speaks to us as humans. And I think you'll agree that today the world probably needs that more than ever. And our work here has only just started really to think about how we can use creativity and impact gaming to start to heal the world. And yeah, enough said on that. But it's not just obviously about the creativity itself, it's the incredible people and their willingness to work and people wanting to be part of that. And so that's one side of the sort of inspired by Africa thing. But I think what a lot of people in the gaming industry know is also true is that there are things that are above the waterline that are visible to everybody, the art, the music, all of those kinds of things people see and appreciate hopefully as they should. But below the waterline, in game design and the way that we're using technology, there's also incredible opportunities. We think about mobile first, maybe web-based solutions, because we know not everybody has the luxury of being able to go to the App Store and install 100 megabyte file, before they've even started playing a game. So we're thinking about how we use technology, game mechanics, in ways that I frankly think can be a huge inspiration for the world. I think if we can solve problems in Africa and by extension in Brazil and your many markets there, those solutions, those technical solutions, those mechanical solutions, those game mechanic solutions, and how we link that through to purpose, I think can be a massive inspiration for the world. We know Africa is going to be the biggest victim of climate change and so many others, as will most countries in the global south. But I like to believe that we'll also be the biggest, we'll have the biggest ability to contribute solutions. And that's because we think differently. And if we make things work here, they might work everywhere else. Whereas if you create a solution that works in a European context, for example, it's not necessarily true that it can work everywhere. So that's the inspired in Africa piece. But really, none of that works. It's quite risky if in isolation. So if you're pitching a game idea, generally, even in the entertainment space, it's a risky initiative, and somebody's going to fund it. It's not our government. Yours and ours typically are not big funders of these, as unfortunately many of the Northern Hemisphere countries get to benefit from that. So we've got to be able to not only come up with the ideas, but also build out those ideas. And whether you are just a service business, in other words, you literally are making games on everyone else's behalf, or you are a creative and creative IT business as well, actually doesn't really matter to us. I think what's important is that there are a lot of studios, each of which is really functioning, is growing, is maybe even specializing across the ecosystem, because then we start to get that flywheel that we were talking about earlier. And we know that it's very, very difficult for us to do that on our own. This is the reason that Games and Change exists in many ways, because it brings together fragmented industry, people across the continent are doing incredible things. But it's important that we showcase what's possible collectively and individually, and that we bring those parties together, because together we actually really, really good across different specializations. And then we firm believers that has to have a north-south element to it as well. It will be amazing, and I do hope that we have south-south initiatives like the one that you've kindly invited us to participate in today. But ultimately, we really want to sell to the world or make products for the world. We're that good. We know we can. We can offer great production value. We can do. We're at the top of our technical game in ways that people don't yet fully appreciate. And that's, again, why these co-productions and growing that whole ecosystem is important. I must say it's exhausting because, the phrase that it takes a village to raise a child. I'm sure you have the same expression in your culture. Well, I sometimes feel that it takes a continent to make a gaming company. And so it really is the hard way around. But until we've got that industrial, creative, scaling capability, we're only going to be developing one piece of it. So one of the ways that we think about it is it's Saturday afternoon here, but I'm still drinking water. But it's always this idea of a wine glass. So based on the best information we have, and I'm very connected, I mean, we've got 8 countries represented on our advisory panel of Games and Change. 8 countries across Africa. I'm very, very proud of that. But when you look around, there are probably no more than 20 studios that employ 10 people. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? It really is a few hundred people that are probably working full-time, have careers in the gaming sector. In a country of a continent of 1 billion people, it just makes no sense at all. And that's how small the industry is here, and I guess it might be true for you too there. And so if you think about the shape of the industry, you have a lot of people being fed in from the bottom. A lot of young people want to be in the gaming space. They also want to be in the impact gaming space, creative industries more generally. And so that base of that wine glass is actually very thin and very wide. I don't know what that's like in your region, but that's certainly true here. So we've got a lot of young people coming into the industry, and as I mentioned, doing hackathons and things like that in isolation actually could potentially make the problem worse. Because where do those people go? Where do they go to improve their skills? And unfortunately, often the answer is they leave our shores, don't they? And they go and work for studios around the world. Again, not a problem in isolation. It's just that we're not getting the flywheel of benefits where those people are coming back and sharing those skills. And then you've got the big guys at the top, whether that's Epic and Sony and whoever, Warner Brothers, whoever it might be, Disney. the big guys at the top are the big part of the wine glass. But that thin stem in the middle, that's the missing middle. And that's the problem with the impact gaming industry. It's shaped like this, and that's not very strong. It's a very fragile structure. And so what we need to do is make that more normal in shape. And the way that we think about it, and these are stated goals. So it's not even, there's no secrets here. And you look at the numbers and you say, all we need is $1 million impact gains a year for 3 years. Call it $10 million over 3 years. Now that's either a lot of money or actually very little if you think about that in the context of the opportunity that exists and how much money is spent on game design generally. Prototypes in Europe and first releases can easily take you back millions of dollars or euros, whatever it might be. So this is all we want. This is all we believe is necessary. Yes, all the other stuff needs to happen too, and the universities need to participate, and the grant funders, and everybody does. But this is how you solve the missing middle problem. And so, whenever somebody wants to engage with us, we just point them back to this and say, "Can you help us make this? Can we get closer to a solution to this issue?" Because that's when we can see impact games really starting to do that. And we're talking here about fixing the plumbing, mobile money, using data and airtime as a commodity, which is very common practice in Africa, and perhaps in many countries in Latin America too. And somebody needs to go to each region, each country, and hook up the system to these people. Figuring out new models to get paid and how to make those things scalable and sustainable, even just get them distributed to as many people. So there are lots of people working on that across Africa, and some fairly well-funded ones and some startups. Because until we can do that, we can't really put a value on the industry and the audience, and therefore it's very difficult to build a revenue model. It's not like there's a shortage of money to solve the world's biggest problems. We know it's tight, it's difficult, but we need to displace traditional needs that aren't working, and perhaps will never work. Games can bring data and insights, and critically, of course, they can bring behavior change. But we can't do that until we know how many people we can reach and how we figure out how to get the data and insights back from them so we can continue to build out our monitoring and evaluation framework. We also don't know what behavior we can show. And until we do that, it's difficult to then go and raise money or displace money that's there already and bring it to the gaming space where we know we actually will probably outperform any other form of media because, of course, a game for change done well will shift behavior in a way that very, very few other media can. And just to finish off on the value chain that we were talking about, we, like you, sit at the intersection here about the entertainment industry and learning and marketing and how these things all overlap. And so we're seeing a lot of we're seeing a lot of entertainment game companies being driven much more by purpose. So there's a whole lot of initiatives that are part of the bigger games to change ecosystem around the world, where we're trying to decarbonize the entertainment industry and solve one problem there. But we're also trying to get them to make games for good. Games that do not promote intolerance, violence, gender-based violence, or whatever issue it is that we know is so important. And if we can use the power and the community about entertainment games for good, we'll take that as a win. On the right, I've also mentioned that more and more brands are playing a role here, and that's important because there's money there. If you think about it, money is currently being given largely to ad agencies who largely give it to Facebook and Google, so that brands can take 1 second of your attention to promote themselves. But they can't really build brand equity because where do you share your purpose assuming you have one as a brand, and we hope you do, because brands that have a purpose outperform those that don't, and certainly build communities. So game's perfect for that. But don't shout at me. Just take the thing that's important to you, the thing that you're knowledgeable on. If you're a bank or an insurance company, for example, you're supposed to be good at financial education. So why don't you share that back with us
in a way that's entertaining to us as customers? Because
that's what a game does. It's ridiculous to say this, but a game forces marketers to put users at the center of an experience. I know you would think that that's what marketers have been doing all this time, but mostly what they've been doing is interrupting the thing we'd rather be doing with their ads. And we see that as a huge source of community, take-to-market capability. And if done well, I think it can shift a big chunk of the world in our direction. Remember, a lot of these big brands have signed up, made commitments to the Sustainable Development Goals globally. And that's that money that we want to start to divert into the gaming space. There's tens of millions of dollars that's already being spent there, and we think we can make a compelling case about why games are the best investment they can make. And then traditionally in the middle, of course, is where game-based learning comes from, the research piece of it, the deep science that underpins how we shift behaviors. The grant funding is there, it's fragmented, it's small, it's typically not coming from our own government. And so, we've got to compete with the rest of the world, but we think we can, and hopefully more and more we're seeing the funders being serious and sustainable and strategic about the kinds of partnerships that they make for the world. And we want to tap into that lead space. Because owning your own ideas is important, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is getting annuity income. In other words, it's not that we're just selling our hours, our time, our ideas once off, but that we're actually getting money paid to us while we sleep, if you like. And it's got to be the single way that we start to measure how scalable and sustainable we become. Because we can become big for work for higher destinations. We can do all of the amazing work. But if we're selling all of that off and we're exporting our people, like has been happening for the last 500, 800 years, thousands of years in your countries and ours, it's static. Essentially, it's on a bad day, it's neo-colonialism, where we're taking our best people and best ideas and we are not getting the full benefit that comes from it. So, don't get us started on that one, but this is what we should be doing. And if we can own these things, the communities and the insights, those are the things that will have value. So from our side, it's always about, it's a crisis. It's a global crisis. People will come to judge us very harshly in 20, 30 years from now, whether it's about the environment or the intolerance and hatred which is affecting our planet. So we have to be bold. We have to do things quickly and at scale. In my estimation, it really is urgent. And every morning I wake up and think, how do we just do this much more quickly than is currently happening? Because there is a massive opportunity without question, but there's also massive need. So thank you to Games to Change LATAM for the invite. As I mentioned, our festival is coming up on the 1st of December in Cape Town. You'll see an email there for Tatiana at d4cafrica.org. Or of course contact anybody at Games to Change LATAM. They will have all of our contact details. And we'd love for you to join us.
Thank you so much. Pessoal, tá aí, 1º de dezembro, Cidade do Cabo, Games for Change, África. É uma oportunidade de a gente aproximar a América Latina e África, conhecer o que está acontecendo por lá, preparar para o ano que vem. Quem sabe a gente vai ter ainda mais interação. Gente daqui lá, gente de lá aqui. So, Glenn, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm telling our audience that, we are getting closer and closer. I dream of the Afro-Latin American beat so that we combine our rhythms, and there's so much in common. And of course, lots of challenges ahead. The world is going through a very difficult period, but I'm quite sure that people like game designers, entertainers, and all those who produce good cultural content, civilized, peaceful content will be awarded sooner or later. Thank you so much, Glenn. Thank you for your time, and I hope the best for our brother Games for Change chapter, brother and sister, okay? Family, we are family, okay? Thank you so much, Glenn. Obrigado a todos que estão aí acompanhando. Daqui a pouco, às 11 horas, WASH. 11 o'clock, we start another session. That's the WASH session. Workshop for aficionados in software and hardware. Obrigado, gente. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Gilson. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. But yeah, let's keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.